Welcome to Reliable Analysis. I'm Dr. Ashok Kumar. I am going to explain a very relevant topic. The title of the topic is Buddhism promotes conservation of natural environment. Buddhism promotes conservation of natural environment. Dear friends, first of all, I would like to request all of you to subscribe this educational channel. It would help us a lot, and wouldn't give you any difficulty. So please promote this educational channel by subscribing this channel. Now I'm going to do deep analysis of this topic, relationship between Buddhism and conservation of natural environment. Buddhism, a tool of environment conservation, or Buddhism promotes conservation of natural environment. It's my research paper. It's completely fundamental, and it is completely my own. I have taken different help of different sources, but the theme is completely fundamental and completely my own. The Buddhist philosophy. Now I am going to start the deep analysis of this topic. Buddhism promotes conservation of natural environment. We are in an era of industrial development in which natural environment is not regarded properly. Due consideration is not being paid on the conservation of natural environment. Industrialization, urbanization, globalization, liberalization, and materialization, all these things have become a source of depletion of forest and natural environment. But Buddhism has promoted conservation of natural environment. The Buddhist philosophy has become more relevant in a world in which people are bloodthirsty and are only running in a blind race of material development. They do not have any care of the conservation of natural environment. They don't have any anxiety of ecological balance. Buddhism is very helpful in protecting the environment, maintaining as a tool of environmental conservation. More than a religion, Buddhism is a way of life, and it makes a rational and scientific interpretation of the life cycle. Concern for the welfare of the natural world has been an important element throughout the history of Buddhism. Recognition that human beings are essentially dependent upon and interconnected with their environment has given rise to an instinctive respect for nature. Although Buddhists believe humans have a unique opportunity to realize enlightenment which other creatures do not, they have never believed humanity is superior to the rest of the natural world. This respect for nature is clearly revealed in Buddhist ideology. The environment and its protection is now an essential and grave issue. Our concern for the environment must not be limited solely to our own region or to the borders of our country. It's a question which has become a source of major concern for everyone of the earth. If young generation is aware of environmental issues from their early childhood, it would make such concerns part of their store of knowledge and keep it alive throughout their lives. An unpolluted environment consists of peaceful society, balanced economy, green belts, and the like. But as per the present scenario, our environment is getting polluted every moment. This is causing grave and extensive damage to all sorts of life on the earth. In fact, its damaging effect is so extensive that it's one of the most widely discussed topics nowadays. The air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we take, the society we live in, etc., are not always absolutely pure, healthy, and peaceful. The prime consequence of pollution could be the death of mankind. It seems that there is a danger in every walk of life. It is necessary to follow the guidelines established by scientists as well as ideal spiritual masters to create better environment and save life on this beautiful planet. Scientists have so far established a number of ways such as new plantations, etc., for better environment. Besides, the science provides qualitative and quantitative data to evaluate the evolution and degradation of the environment. Buddhism also provides essential guidelines for playing an important role for bringing out some helpful solution for ecological and environmental crisis. In response to the growing global environmental crisis, scholars have begun to interrogate religious traditions as a possible resource for the development of an environmental ethics. It is not surprising to discover that different points of view regarding environmental ethics. It is not surprising to discover that different points of view regarding environmental ethics and religion, or what is referred to more generally as religion and ecology, have materialized. At one end of the spectrum are apologists who see the world's religions as a key resource in addressing the environmental crisis. At the other, critics point to religion as redounding to the crisis. In his controversial 1967 article on Christianity and the environment, Lynn White commends Buddhism for its holistic, egalitarian worldview and an environmentally friendly style of life, in contrast to the biblical worldview and mainstream Christianity that White sees as promoting human dominance over nature and hence contributing to the environmental crisis, challenging White's reductive view. Christian scholars point out that Western theism encompasses at least five attitudes towards environment: despotic dominion over, stewardship of, subordination to, participation in. And in the past 2 decades, Christian theologians who have given a prominent place to ecology include Sally McFaig and Mark I. Wallace. While concentrating on the topic, various books of eminent scholars concerning Buddhism are consulted. Resources has also been taken to make an in-depth study of the published works of the author. Reviews of the works by eminent scholars and critics have also been widely consulted. The Buddhism taught Buddhahood is a state of absolute existence in which the truth of the basic nature of the universe has been revealed to the individual. The absolute element of Buddhahood is the law. Anyone who perceives the full meaning of this law can attain Buddhahood. Man does not become a Buddha by being enlightened to the meaning of the law, because in the depths of life force itself is the power to become a Buddha. If the human being will but recall and recognize it. The Lotus Sutra, in relating how the historical Buddha achieved Buddhahood, teaches the way for human beings to manifest the supreme dignity of the Buddha nature inherent in their own beings. By relating his own experiences, the Buddha clearly explains how to manifest the dignity of life on an actual plane. According to Buddhism, the animate world is the result of individual karma of every being, whereas inanimate world is the result of collective karma of beings. A healthy or polluted environment is created by good or bad collective karma of all the settlement beings who participate in its form of life, and therefore the ecology and environment are not the concern of any one individual, but is the concern of us. All Buddha took nature, especially trees, in great reverence, as he took birth under the tree, got enlightenment under the tree, and even attained parinirvana under a tree. Not only Buddha, but the birthplace of Manjusri Lama Songpa is also marked by a sandal tree bearing 100,000 images of the Buddha. According to Buddhism, a florist tree purifies the world. It helps us breathe the sustaining air for life. It pleases the eye and soothes the mind. Its shade makes a welcome resting place. In Vinaya Pitaka, Buddha instructed monks to care of tender trees. On this basis, we may learn the virtue of planting and nurturing trees. Further, he forbade the monks to cut and cause others to cut living plants, destroy seeds, or defile the fresh green grass. It inspires us to love and protect our environment. Not only this, he also instructed to perceive that there is nothing dearer to the living than life. Recognizing this, he lays down provisions in Vinaya rules like the use of water with living creatures, that is, monks should use water by filtering so that the invisible tiny creatures living in it may not die. Lays down prohibitions of even uprooting grass, especially during summer season, as it may cause death to the tiny creatures living in it. The importance of the interdependent nature of the external and internal ecologies has been vindicated in Buddhism. So solitary places such as cave and forest have been held in great esteem in Buddhism as the most suitable places for practicing sadhana, means meditation. On the other hand, it is believed that some transcendental deities, local deities, and spirits make their abode in trees. In such circumstances, if we pollute the environment by cutting trees, how can we expect auspiciousness from them? Similarly, in action, Tantra, importance of internal and external purification, such as bath, cleanliness, and so on, has been emphasized. According to Buddhism, the sound of basic Buddhist doctrines like impermanence is emanated by tree in the celestial abode, that is, in the heaven of thirsty tree. Holding tree is great esteem. Acharya Santi Deva has also prayed in Bodhicharya Vatara, may there abound in all directions gardens of wish fulfilling trees filled with the sweet sound of Dharma proclaimed by the Buddha and his sons. The Dalai Lama prayed, the earth is home to living beings, equal and impartial to the moving of unmoving. Thus spoke the Buddha, his truthful voice, with the great earth for witness, playing with the lives of other beings without sensitivity or hesitation, as in the act of hunting or fishing for sport is an act of heedlessness, needless violence, a violence of the solemn rights of all living beings. Environment-friendly attitude of Buddhism can be estimated from the nature of sacrifices in which there was no violence or dominance of spirituals. Bulls were not slain. Goats, sheep, cocks, pigs, or various other living beings were not subjected to slaughter. Even trees were not cut down for sacrificial post, nor were grasses mown for the sacrificial grass. And those who are called slaves or servants or workmen did not perform their tasks for fear of blows or threats, weeping and in tears. But those who wanted to do something did it. Those who did not wish to do it, they didn't what they wanted to do, and not what they did not want to do. The sacrifice was carried out with ghee, butter, crudes, honey, molasses. The natural environment uninhabited by humanity was also respected as the ideal place for cultivating a spiritual insights. Even in 18th century India, dwelling in nature was clearly preferable for Shanti Deva to life in a monastery or town. When shall I come to dwell in forest amongst the deer, the birds, and the trees, that nothing unpleasant and are delightful to associate with. Milarepa, Tibet's great yogi saint, was also fond of praising the benefits of living alone in the world. That say nothing unpleasant and are delightful to associate with. Milarepa, Tibet's great yogi saint, was also fond of praising the benefits of living alone in the world. This is a delightful place, a place of hills and forest. In the mountain, meadows, flowers bloom. In the woods dance the swaying trees. For monkeys, it is a playground. Birds sing tunefully. Milarepa has further added that in summer and winter falls the sweet rain, and mist and fog roll up in fall and spring. At such a pleasant place in solitude, Milarepa happily abide, meditating upon the wide, illuminating mind. The Nadivisala Jataka illustrates how kindness should be shown to domesticated animals. Even a wild animal can be tamed with kind words. Parileya was a wild elephant who waited on the Buddha when he spent time in the forest away from the monks. Another elephant, the infuriated Nalagiri, was tamed by the Buddha with no other miraculous power than the power of loving kindness. Human and beast can live and let live without fear of one another. If only humans cultivate sympathy and regard all life with compassion. From the above mentioned facts, it is clear that Buddhism tirelessly advocates the virtues of non-greed, non-hatred, of non-delusion in all human pursuits. Greed breeds sorrow of unhealthy consequences. Contentment is a highly praised virtue in Buddhism. Thus, nothing was wasted. Those who waste are derided as wood apple eaters. A man shakes the branch of a wood apple tree of all the fruits, ripe as well as unripe, fall. The man collects only what he wants of leaves, the rest to rot. Such a wasteful attitude is certainly deplored in Buddhism as not only antisocial but criminal. The excessive exploitation of nature as carried out in today would certainly be condemned by Buddha in the strongest possible terms. Buddhism advocates a gentle, non aggressive attitude towards nature. According to the Sinalovoda Sutra, a householder should accumulate wealth as a bee collects nectar from a flower. The bee harms neither the fragrance nor the beauty of the flower, but gathers nectar to turn it into sweet honey. Similarly, a human being is expected to make legitimate use of nature. So she can rise above nature and realize her innate spiritual potential. The understanding of karma and rebirth also prepares the Buddhist to adopt a sympathetic attitude towards animals. In this research paper, I have taken help from different sources like White, Gustafson, Anguttara Nikaya, Digha Nikaya, and Althasalini, Dhammapad, Atha Katha, Samayuta Nikaya, and the West Makers, Longmans, London. Dhammapada, Anguttara Nikaya, Dhammapada Atakatha, etc. Thank you for watching the video. Once again, I would like to request all of you to subscribe this educational channel and promote it, encourage us. Thank you.